Anzi siyamukelela Wadzanayi Africa. Maswera say ndaswera rangwinini. Great to have you tuned in, Mamava Madison Junior Milton Park. This is the deep dive. Val Mush, how's it going? How's it going? We want to be talking about issues that we see unfolding in society that sometimes we may wonder about, sometimes we may have an analysis on, sometimes we are just rolling with the flow and seeing things that we've been taught, getting into action. And it's not all the time that we have answers to some of these things, because these are just things that just unfold before us. Even before you know it, you actually realize, okay, this is the situation. So there's this interesting thing going on now, because this is your trusted platform for conversations that matter. We want to approach the festive season with caution. We want to actually have wholesome conversation, not just listening to music, not just vibing, but actually having wholesome conversation that matters. And so as we approach the festive season, that's a time that we associate with joy. That's a time we spend time with family. That's when we have family reunions, and that's also times we travel. It's also a time of celebration. And we see, that's a time maybe like there's lots of alcohol sales even. We also need to confront this harsh reality that not a lot of people talk about, but continues to shadow during this period every year. This is the issue to do with gender-based violence. So tonight, our topic is safety before celebration, protecting families from gender-based violence during the festive period. We could say, oh, here we go again. We're always talking about gender-based violence. So what's this about now? We want to specifically look at what happens during the festive season, because that also seems to be a period where gender-based violence spikes in the families. And so, obviously, to have this conversation, we have people who've been walking a certain journey and have been helping other people that could be sharing their insights here, that you could also be asking questions on our WhatsApp platform and join in the conversation and tell us what you think, what your observations are, and ask all the questions that you have. So while December brings excitement, holidays and gatherings and all that, there's also things like financial pressures and social expectations, unresolved conflicts, and last year to hash it out right now. Neighbors it's very easy to have things that can just spark a fight in the homes, in our families, with our neighbors. And so tonight we hold this important conversation, not to dampen the festive season and the festive spirit. I've seen some Christmas trees out already. It's all right, even as we're celebrating, let's also talk about the things that matter, things that are affecting us. So to talk about this crucial issue, I'm joined in the studio today by two transformative coaches who have dedicated their work to healing families and empowering individuals and also driving positive change. Madrine, Chiku, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Elza.
Great. So Madrine is a powerful transformational coach committed to rebuilding families, strengthening communities, and also guiding people toward healthier relationships. So we're going to be talking about why GBV rises during the festive season. So I've also got Masimba Malvern-Kunze. Thank you for joining us here on the Deep Dive, Masimba.
Thanks, Waza. Thank you for having me.
Great. Both of you and the work that you're doing. I'll ask you on another day why you picked such hectic stuff, though. But let's talk about, firstly, why GBV tends to rise during the festive season. Madrine.
All right. There are so many aspects, like you said, that alcohol consumption is one of them. There's just an atmosphere of excitement, and people consume a lot of alcohol, and you know how it is with alcohol. Any short issue, tempers rise, and people end up engaging in gender-based violence. And we also have issues of financial stress. This is not only during the festive season, but it is something that is cross-cutting. When resources are inadequate, you find that the tendency is to get frustrated. I see it myself with my daughter. When she asks money for her needs and I don't have money, the way I respond is not always the best. and I always regret and try to tone down later on. And I always say, suppose it's in a marriage setting, how will it be for a husband and wife? So you find that inadequate resources are a challenge that can contribute to that. Maybe Masimba can also take the other aspects.
Yeah, well, you also look at the aspect of communication. Usually, we're coming from the whole year of toxicity at work, toxicity in different situations, places that we spend the whole days. Now, when all that mounts up towards the festive season, you didn't have enough time to refresh, to cool down. It's the end of the year. You now have so many pressures. You're looking at fees for the next year. You're looking at what do you call them? Christmas clothes for your children. You're looking. There's so many things that you're now looking at buying for your children. How, like the budget for just the celebrations themselves. All that is coming up with so much pressure that you didn't get time to relieve yourself off during the year. So at the end of the day, you then find out that your tempers rises, and you don't really assimilate information well. Any simple conversation will turn into a very big volcano. Yeah. So all that has to.
Would you say though that also includes like a pile up of like pressure, like usually the year is ending, so February. I'm like holding on to that, and now festive season, any slight mistake, if you don't buy those decorations for the home, if you don't buy the Christmas clothes for the kids, then it's like a fight. Is that some of the stuff that actually also contributes? Like,
yeah, because you realize that within the mindset of most people, like probably within our society, we're not taught how to handle or to deal with issues. We usually just pile them up. So as they mold up into a volcano, towards the end of the year, you're now saying you want to do your New Year's resolutions, but you haven't finished up issues from behind. So those issues, when they pile up with the pressure, and you then also want to take up alcohol, like what Madrine was saying, all that creates triggers which we might not be able to deal with within such an area or within such a volatile time when we're mentally not stable.
I see. Now, Madrine, your voice has inspired many towards self-awareness and also emotional safety. How can families create safer and healthier celebrations?
Right. Families have to be united to start with. Creating values as a family. These are our values. This is what we uphold in our home. This is unacceptable. Setting ground rules. So when grounds are set, they have to be implemented. And once they are implemented, they have to be monitored, just like we do monitoring and evaluation, to see that everybody is complying with the set rules. Because if we don't do that, like any other institution where there are no policies, where there are no ground rules, you find that everybody is just liberal and they can do whatever we want. So it sort of like fosters a form of discipline so that everybody abides to the set rules. And that way we are able to monitor as parents.
Okay. And then, Masimba, sometimes there are some red flags that you actually see, but we sometimes tend to ignore those things, like some warning signs that you can see. But this is like someone's waiting to explode here. So people like don't even know how to navigate that even within their relationships, especially let's say if you're traveling, let's say you're going to go long distance to visit family somewhere else and you've got underlying issues, So how can people actually manage themselves in situations like that? Even because okay, so like there's a pending thing here that's like anytime this live wire is just going to explode.
All right, so the aspect of emotional intelligence has to come into play. Why emotional intelligence? Yeah, we're celebrating artificial intelligence in this era, but there is something called emotional intelligence, which is of paramount importance. Knowing how to handle relationships, knowing how to handle moods, knowing how to handle questions actually. Because you get into a situation whereby you are asked questions which probably might be provocative. Probably people are actually waiting for you to come to respond to that. So with emotional intelligence now, you will be able to then have a discussion within yourself before the discussion that you are going to be experiencing with the people. You teach yourself how to respond to such questions. All right, I'll give you an example from the Bible. The Bible says, meditate on this book of the Lord day and night, and you will cause yourself to prosper. In the book of Joshua. Meditation, from my own perspective, I think meditation is the ability to separate your heart, your mind, and your spirit, and have them in conversation. That in this situation, as a spirit man, as a man called by God, is my response the right response? You are balancing your emotional well-being. Because at the end of the day, with emotional intelligence, that's also where the scripture comes. Chengeta moyo wako kudarika zvese zvingarindo. You're getting into a place where emotions are very volatile. You have to know how to navigate such systems. And for you to actually then be able to navigate such systems, you have to practice meditation. You have to practice listening to yourself. Is this a good space for me emotionally? How do I navigate? How do I speak with people who are trying to provoke me? If I can't handle it, why can't I just probably take a break, go away and cool down, then come back when I'm refreshed?
So what happens, Paye Masimba, when, let's say, we've got the whole aspect of in-laws involved? Because Christmas is not only just you in your home and your household. Sometimes we've visited Madrine, all of us, me and my tribe, and there we are. In the heat of the moment, you're not really going to be thinking of emotional intelligence, I'm thinking. And so what are some of the early warning signs people could look out for, maybe, for in potentially violent situations, in case someone cannot manage their emotions in that heated situation?
Yes, there are aspects that show that something is not right, like withdrawal from family. For someone who is usually talkative, for example, I've got a very active daughter, she's always talkative. But the moment I start seeing withdrawal from family, withdrawal from friends, I should start asking questions. That's just one sign. And also when I notice irrational behavior, like in our home, we don't yell. In our home, we don't show disrespect to elderly people. In our home, we give each other a chance to speak. So when I begin to see irrational behavior, that should be a red flag. And I need to engage and try to find out and offer support. In such situations, you don't react, you don't want to enforce discipline the usual way, but you want to seek to find what the challenge is so that you can proffer solutions. So these are some of the dynamics over and above what Masimba spoke about in terms of artificial intelligence.
I see. So going forward, it would be good to have like support systems that can help, right? Because sometimes kind of anazo kurira and they just don't know how to like get out of a situation, but they don't want to be doing what they're doing, but they want to get out of the situation. What support services or hotlines should survivors know about as we approach the festive season?
Okay, I will give you the details, but we've got one strong system in Zimbabwe, and that is the referral pathways. The referral pathways has got three main components. It has got the legal aspect, it has got the medical, and it also has the psychosocial support. And one thing which usually happens was, like what Masimba was talking about, when somebody has been violated, the tendency is to try to pursue the perpetrator. But for us who are practitioners in that area, the first port of call should be the medical, because within the medical field, there are dynamics like administering post-exposure prophylaxis within 72 hours. So when people are going to pursue the perpetrator, you are not so sure when you're going to find them. So we always encourage people to go for medical attention so that post-exposure prophylaxis is administered. And when that is happening, there's also the perpetrator has to be brought to book. So that is the legal aspect, and we work with the VFU victim-friendly unit and other players, so to speak. And then there's the psychosocial support, where they need to be rehabilitated, because most of the problems that we have now is because of people who were violated. They did not open up, they did not get support, psychosocial support. So they are full of anger and revenge. And these are the people who also eventually end up violating other people. So we have got that. Whilst I leave this time to Masimba, I'll try to look for the details where people can get support. But we've got a Musasa projects. They've got their toll-free numbers, which for Econet users, for Net1 users, and also for Tel1 users. I'm going to give them to you so that when people are violated, they can get them. So for Musasa, the toll-free for Econet is 0808 0074. This is for Econet users. And then for Net1, it's 0801 0074. This is for Net1 users. And these numbers are free. You just pick up your phone and you dial them. And the last one for Telecel is 0731 080 074. So when people experience challenges in the area of violence, these are the go-to numbers.
Thank you, Madrine. I'm going to ask you to share those again at the end of the conversation, because this is very helpful to have. But Masimba, she spoke about the importance of support, and I'm just thinking, if something were to happen to someone, chances are they're probably going to reach out first to someone within their social circles, someone who's within their community. So can we talk about the preparedness of community structures? These are the churches, the police, the local organizations, the first people that someone is most likely going to go to if they encounter any kind of GBV.
Yes, we have to talk about those churches as well, police and stuff, but let's also not forget that within these same societies, that's where the stigmatization also comes from. So you then have to be careful on who you approach. For example, growing up, I lost my mom at a very tender age, and I got to create a system of support to the extent where she became one of my mothers. I became somebody who knows how to select the right type of mothers. And within them, I found so much training, so much mentorship, which has molded me to be the man that I am today. You get the point? So you then have to be very careful in selecting the right people to approach, because the very same people you approach, you give an example, like a man faces gender-based violence and he goes to report to the police, and the police are now the police start laughing, saying how can a man be beaten by a woman? You get the point? So these are areas of stigmatization which when we fail to realize the right type of people to approach, we'll also get into places where the challenges are deepened instead of dealt with. So we really have to be careful on how to select the people who actually assist us within the churches, within the structures. Like for churches, you look at churches usually have counselors. So if you go to the counselors, you know you are safe. Why? Because counselors, they know how to handle issues. They will not say after dealing with your issue, they go to the next person and say, she told me that she was being beaten. This one. Then they start laughing about your issue. So you then have to be able to know how to approach the right people in these community organizations.
All right, so having wisdom in knowing who to approach and how to handle the situation. Well, here's to hoping that your trusted person has not gone to Kadoma on holiday there.
Yeah.
And about to tell the Christmas period. So like people travel and all of that. But here's to hoping that someone can get like immediate help. And you talked about sometimes men also get into these situations and then they get like a tricky response, which is very discouraging. What role can men and boys play in preventing GBV and promoting safer celebrations, even in just conversations and in their lifestyles and things that they do?
All right, so when we look at the male child as it is in the current scenario, let's look at a scenario where women are more likely to meet, gather, and help each other, train each other, tell each other issues. The society has created a system where men do not feel comfortable sharing their issues. So we then have to create those platforms for men and also teach the men that you are the protector of the society. You are the provider for the society. Do not be the one perpetuating probably the silencing of victims. You then have to take up your position as men, have that, what do you call it, positive masculinity, where you are more like the guardian of the society. That's the role that men should play.
I see. And Masimba, you said society has created this. And even as generations are now we've seen generational differences now, where there seems to be one generation that is more open to expressing their emotions and feelings and probably getting in touch with that. So how can we encourage men to speak out against abusive behavior amongst their peers? Because the assumption is it's the men that are only offending, right? But then they're also going through stuff sometimes. So how could you foster, what are some of the deliberate things guys can do to say, all right, if you take these steps, hopefully in a few years or so, in a couple of years or so, we'll have created this culture of being open?
All right, so the process of creating a system has to start from the grassroots. Systems, we cannot start systems from the top. You realize that even colonial systems, they came through educational systems, which starts from the grassroots. Let's create platforms where young boys are taught that you are your brother's keeper, even your sister's keeper. Let's create such platforms where issues are discussed. You get the point? Where the whole topic of gender-based violence does not just limit to the girl child. I'm happy for today because the girl child has got so many platforms where she's getting so much support. I tend to go back to the Bible most times. When you look at the scripture that most conferences are quoting, where they're teaching girls how to be the best wife or a virtuous wife, I always say that verse was not written for women. It was the queen who was teaching her future son how to be the best husband and how to select the best wife. So you realize that as the society, let's create those platforms where children are taught from grassroots how to be the right men, or the Proverbs 31 men per se. How can we get the Proverbs 31 men?
Now, Madrine, there are so many songs that have been sung discouraging GBV. There's signs and posters all over. It's being taught in schools. People are talking about it. It's like an ongoing conversation, and yet sometimes it still seems to persist. What are some of the effective, practical solutions that you feel could help reduce gender-based violence, especially at community level?
Right. I would like to go back to what Masimba said. Starting local, we start in Jerusalem, because I'm sure we've heard of a smoking doctor. A smoking doctor is one who tells people not to smoke, but he smokes. So we need positive role models who exhibit positive practices so that families can emulate. So it starts at that level. And as we go further, this is a problem that affects everybody. Like in some settings, there are GBV platforms where people can share challenges pertaining to GBV. That is very, very important. Civil society organizations are doing that. Churches are doing that, and people in the communities are doing that. And also when we go to the police setting, it is imperative to note that in terms of legal frameworks, we have done so well as a nation, and you find that at every police station there is a victim-friendly unit. So when you get to the police, you're not going to report your challenge where everybody else is reporting. This is where the stigma and stereotypes that Masimba was talking about. But if you go to the VFU, it's actually located at a place whereby it's isolated and secluded from other structures, so that you can share your story, and there are capable people there who have been trained to handle GBV issues. So when anybody goes to a police station, they must ask for VFU. And they are also reporting mechanisms, be it in church, like here I saw somewhere where it's written Star FM, suggestion box. So many people have come up with suggestion box because the issue of GBV is very, very sensitive. There's incest taking place. Most of it is happening within the home. So people have now resorted to suggestion box, which are anonymous, so that people can report what they see. I'm sure you have seen people coming up, neighbors, taking pictures of GBV that is happening. And, people coming around, we saw the bullying of those children who were fighting, although I heard that is an old video, but it's on the public domain, because people are now being conscientized on reporting. So such practices, they help us to curb some of the challenges of GBV that we experience.
So in the rare cases where someone might be like in the thick of that experience, in the midst of it, and actually wondering, okay, I know where to report, but what's going to happen after I report? What would you say to them? Like, if they're still contemplating and they've weighed their options, they've done their pros and cons of reporting and wondering what steps to take beyond that. Are there also support systems? I mean, obviously people could be observant and see this is what this person's going through. But then like they're like just stuck in, okay, what's going to happen after reporting?
Right. Those are the issues that I was talking about. There are so many organizations or institutions that handle such things. We have some that deal with issues to do with shelter, where people who are violated, etc., they can be provided with shelter temporarily, whilst long-term processes can take place. We've got organizations like Musasa, the one I've spoken about. They've got long-term mechanisms to assist women or survivors of violence, be it male, be it female, in terms of long term. So they will be able to get assistance and to be walked through various stages so that they get out of that situation. So because people do not come up in the open, people do not go through these processes, they don't know that there is support out there where people can be helped. And also when people have challenges, for example, if it's beyond a family, there are referrals. Even within organizations, we refer when it is medical. Like I was saying, it has to be referred to the appropriate institutions that have the capacity to handle the situation. So there are various sectors where somebody can get help, but they have to come up and then go to the practitioners that they've got the competencies, and they will be able to get help.
Now, Masimba, Madrine is talking about the options that are available for somebody to get help when they decide to make that decision to report and try and get out of their situation. What role does the societal silence or stigma even, what role does this play in enabling violence during this time?
All right, so let's look at it from this perspective. The more we suppress this whole aspect of gender-based violence, probably within your home or within your community, the more we suppress it, the more lives we lose. Let's understand that life comes once, and once you're gone, you're gone. It won't make sense celebrating when you've lost your neighbor or you've lost your friend. Let's stop stigmatizing people who are going through such situations. Let's create a platform where we assist each other, because you realize that most scenarios, I've come across cases where probably a man just held the collar of a of his wife, and she passes out and she dies. The rest of his life is now in jail over something that could have been said or spoken out and dealt with. So you realize that the more we continue perpetuating such acts, we are reducing our numbers. We are letting our friends, our loved ones die simply because we are failing to just help a friend. Yeah.
So from your observation, obviously Nyadzivan towards Pindirwe, and that always obviously stands, but from your observation, does it look like vanhu vanotsiurana kudzorana paya paya kuti osadaro shasha uri kuita izvi based on what they'll have seen and how someone's treating someone in their family, or is there more like kakukurudzira, like yeah, okay, you know what, whatever, or like just turning a blind eye? What are you observing mostly? Are people actually like reprimanding each other, or people are just turning a blind eye mostly? What's the situation like?
Yeah, the problem is most scenarios for such cases, ma beer talk. People go kubawa, somebody celebrating, so you realize that from such platforms, there are certain platforms that when you go to, don't expect to get good advice. Why? Because the people that you see there, them doing it doesn't mean that it's right. You get the point? So people might encourage you to do the wrong things. But at the end of the day, it's you who will get into jail. It's you who will suffer. You get the point? So when you get into such situations where you see that the people that you're associating with probably are turning a blind eye or are actually promoting bad habits, change your environment. Change it totally. Why? Because that environment determines your direction. Where you're going with your life. If you see yourself foregoing the rest of your life simply because you just got overexcited over a season of celebration, you are forgetting that you have so many more seasons to come. You have so many more Christmases to come.
That actually reminds me of the spending habits that are going to come in this season. And to authority will forget, okay, there's another season coming. It also happens that sometimes you forget that there's life now, Hanti, after the Christmas season, and then you've spent everything. Is that also not like one of the reasons why then people end up getting into gender-based violence? Because now, you spent all the money and now you're like all dried out.
You know, when you are budgeting for celebrations, don't forget next year. Don't forget school fees. Okay? As you budget, understand that this is a season. There is a life after the season. So that when you're planning, you actually plan towards life, not towards the season alone.
I see. Now, Madrine, as we head into the festive season, what do you want to say to families?
Okay, I want to tell families to not to consume too much alcohol. They must do it in moderation so that we do not lose life, because even in the roads, in the streets, you find that when people consume a lot of alcohol, there could be accidents. We want to avoid that. And we also want people to live in peace and in harmony. So people should minimize altercations. They should resolve conflicts before they escalate to gender-based violence. So certain things can be circumvented through effective communication. So whenever they see challenges, they should discuss. And at law, we've got something that you spoke about, exhausting internal remedies. If they fail to understand each other, the two of them, our culture has provided platforms where we can approach respected members of society to reconcile people. If they fail, they can even use church structures, they can use friends, and after they have exhausted everything, they keep on going up. So in administrative law, we talk of exhausting eternal remedies. So they must try to resolve the two of them. If they fail, let them use other systems before they even get to serious issues such as divorce.
I see. So you've got feedback here. There's Sungura lady from Hayden Park was saying thank you very much for educating us. Then there's also a message here from 903. Thank you, Advocate Madrine. Powerful. We are learning. You are schooling us. This obviously means that this is being appreciated. This is something, as we say on the deep dive, the issues that affect us in the communities that we're getting insight on and getting to see, okay, so how can you navigate this and what can you do beyond this? So, Masimba, what do you also want to say to families as we get into the festive season?
All right, so the festive season, I'm saying let's choose peace. Let's choose to protect one another. Let's choose to celebrate life. It is a gift, right? So you realize that the aspect of emotions, let's be able to just handle ourselves within the season. It's a season. There is a life after the season. Let's just try to be as happy as possible, but as peaceful as possible.
I see. Madrine, as we said, would ask you to share those numbers again. If somebody needs to get help, that they trying to see, okay, I need some contacts, I need numbers to save. And these are numbers that we will also always repeat even after the 7 p.m. news. So just for people to know that they can get help. Just knowing that there's help out there, it helps change the mind frame. It also helps to give someone courage to get out of their situation because they have somewhere to turn to and they know that there's someone who's out there and cares and will listen.
Thank you so much. So I'll give the numbers again. Thank you, Wadza, for that because this is very important. So it's Musasa, toll-free numbers. Again, they are free. You just pick up your phone. If it is Econet, you dial 0808 0074. And then for Net 1 users, it's 0801 0074. And then for Telecel users, you dial 0731 080 and 074.
I see.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive. Absolutely appreciate your insight and everything that you've shared with our listeners this evening.
Thank you.
Great. So I had Madrine, Chiku, and Masimba Malvern-Kunze, and we're talking about safety before celebration. As much as Christmas is coming up, we've also got to be protecting families from gender-based violence this festive period. And that's something for you to remember because this is an ongoing conversation, and we've got numbers that we'll share with you even after the 7 p.m. news. So thank you very much for listening into that. And if you have questions, as usual, feel free to ask and send them away.
We calculate.